Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more. Okay, audience, here's the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer.
Welcome to the Author's Edge show. Join us for lively conversations with writers, publishers, songwriters, illustrators, and artists diving into the art of storytelling. Catch us live every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 929 and KXOK FM 1029, or stream online at kxok.com, KWRH929.com, and via free apps, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and TuneIn. The show also airs nationwide Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. on My Genre Radio Network. Missed an episode? Find us anytime on SoundCloud, YouTube, or at authorsedge.org. That's authorsedge.org. Now, this segment of Author's Edge radio show is sponsored by Edit Right, the professional editing and publishing support for authors who want their stories to shine. Learn more at editright.com. That's EDITWRIGHT.com. And today we have George Jarrett, who is an award-winning investigative journalist and best-selling true crime author. He's written 5 books profiling cases across the country, including the infamous West Memphis 3 case. And he, the co-author of this book, Silent Silhouette, lured a serial killer onto a Facebook page a year before his arrest. Ooh. The stories have appeared worldwide in the New York Times, USA Today, and the Washington Post. He's been featured on 2020, Crime Nation, Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory, Still Mystery Life, and Death Row, and more. In addition to true crime, George covers politics, economics, education, history, health, and high-profile celebrity features, continuing his active work as a journalist. But before we get started, I want to also welcome my driver, Ralph, also my husband, but don't tell anybody. He's so cute. And Mark, who also keeps me in line, keeps me from doing anything I shouldn't be doing. Now tell me, George, let's get started at the beginning. You got such a wide range career and a reputation that precedes you. Let's give this listeners a sense of who you are when you were chasing down these criminals, these dark alley guys. How did you get into true crime?
Well, I went to college. I was going to be a lawyer. And my senior year, I met a lot of broke and miserable lawyers. And I thought to myself, hey, I can be broke or I could be miserable, but I can't be both. So I did what anybody...
You chose miserable over broke?
That's what I did, yeah. Or maybe it's the other way around. So I did what any sensible person would do. I opened up the newspaper back when we had those things. And the local newspaper needed a reporter. And I thought, okay, I'll take a year off from school and I'll just go make some money. And, and the editor agreed with me. I didn't really take a lot of journalism classes or anything like that, but I did a writing test with him and he's like, you can definitely write. He said, I'll let you cover cops and courts mostly. So you'll get a rhythm for a courtroom and all that kind of stuff as a lawyer.
Why did he make you go into cops and courts? Because of your lawyer background?
Because he told me I was going to go to law school after a year. He said, don't worry, you're going to law school. And so I covered a lot of mundane things. I would cover school board meetings and government meetings, and I would go to court some. And so it was pretty, average fare for a reporter working in a small town. But then I got a call from a woman 7 months in. She said, we can't find my niece. And as soon as she said that, I said, where are you at? And she was in an adjacent county. And so I went to the sheriff's department, and that's when I started covering my first murder case, and it was the murder of Rebecca Gould. She was a 22-year-old college student.
Did they ever find her?
1 week later, and I was actually out there when they found her body, and I'm the one that told her father, Dr. Larry Gould. I'm actually the person who told him that she had been found a few minutes after I saw her out in the woods.
And so tell me, I mean, don't just give me, please.
Sure. So Rebecca, this is an interesting fact about her case. So she was a 22-year-old college student. She would come home from school on the weekends, and she would had a like on again, off again boyfriend. And so
so it was the boyfriend.
No. This is the case where we actually lured the killer onto the Facebook page.
Oh my gosh.
So what happened is she was in the house. Now this is the story, is that she took him to work that Monday morning. She went back to his house, and he lived out kind of in the middle.
The boyfriend.
Yes. And she kind of lived out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And he lived out in the middle of nowhere. So she went back to get her belongings, her suitcase, her dog, all her stuff. Well, she was supposed to pick her sister up and they were going to go back to school together in Fayetteville that day, but she never arrived to pick her up. The boyfriend went straight from work out with some friends that night, and then he stayed the night at another friend's house, so he didn't go home. When they went to his house the next day with the police, they found bloody sheets in the washing machine. They found a flipped mattress. It looked like the room had been destroyed by a tornado. It was so things were broken. Mirror was off kilter.
So they all thought it was the boyfriend.
Yeah, at first they did, but the police believed he was at work. So her uninjured dog was in the house. Her car keys were there. Everything was there, but she wasn't. And so if we spend the next week looking for her, she's found a week later down a thoroughfare that connects the town of Melbourne to Mountain View. She was found down a steep embankment on this really rural, dangerous road. She was very badly decomposed. It's the only murder in the history of the world where the murder weapon was a loose piano leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it came from the house. Like that sort of ex-boyfriend had a piano, and one of the legs on the front would come loose. Fun fact for you and your listeners, the front legs of a piano are not load bearing on a standard piano, like a grand piano. Yes, but they're not load bearing. So they're just ornamental. So you can take those legs off and nothing will happen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so her case went unsolved for 16 years. What happened was I started writing about it. Actually, there's chapters in both of the books that you've got today.
These two books?
Yes, that are dedicated to her case. Because I would always write about it because it always haunted me because I saw her body and I told her father that, she had been found. So in 2016, her dad and I, we kind of had stayed in contact a little bit, but I hadn't seen him in 10 years. And so we started, like pushing it through the media. We started really trying to ramp it up. We're trying to put pressure on the state police.
Right.
Because we felt like they were screwing the case up because they were focusing in on a guy who obviously had nothing to do with the murder. It was just a guy. A
random guy or the boyfriend?
Not the boyfriend, a random guy.
A random guy.
And so in 2018, I was on a podcast called Hell and Gone. A reporter from Discovery Channel contacted me. Her name was Catherine Townsend, and she wanted to do a podcast on Rebecca's case.
Okay.
And it went viral. The podcast went viral, and I was in probably 6 episodes of it, I think. And so what happened is it started a fury. Like a lot of people got mad at the state police, like, you're screwing this up. And Catherine's podcast directly pointed towards the boyfriend. Like it was like, hey, whoever, because here's a couple of things. And for people who don't understand, there were behavioral aspects to the crime that the police were not paying attention to. One, her body was moved from the house. Okay. I can tell you from having written dozens of murder cases around the country, you're not going to, anything that a killer does, he or she is compelled to do. Meaning if the person for some reason had to move her body. Okay. Well, the only person who would not want the dead body in that house would be the people who live there. Right.
Right.
Or someone who has a connection to the house.
Right.
So then we have another connecting behavioral attribute here. The person cleaned the mess up. They went in and cleaned the blood off the floorboards, and they tried to wash the sheets, and they flipped the bed,
right? Which
again points to a connection to the house.
So it all goes back to the boyfriend.
Not necessarily, because there's other people. See, and also whoever knew about the piano leg, that it would come loose.
Right.
So that's a key detail.
So there are other people living in the house.
His father lived in the house. Okay. So he would be on the suspect list. Also, actually, and let me back up a little bit. So through the course of that podcast, it started this furor, but it kind of died down. Well, then I get a call or I get an email from a woman named Jennifer Buchholz, and she co-wrote that last book with me. We call each other. She's my investigative partner, is what we call each other.
She co-wrote the
Silent Silhouette. Yeah.
This one.
Yes.
Silent Silhouette.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
This one.
yes. And so Jennifer was a counterintelligence agent in the U.S. Army.
Ooh.
Her job in the Army was to vet people working on military bases to determine if they were terrorists or not. You know how they'll have locals working on bases. So she was in Afghanistan, Iraq. She served in South Korea, and she's a criminology professor, and she teaches.
Knows her stuff.
She worked in the medical examiner's office in New York for 2 years.
Knows her stuff.
The State Department would hire her after she got out of the Army to go and train police officers in other countries. She would sign contracts. She worked in the Arizona correctional system for 2 years just to get that aspect of this whole system. Her goal was to go in the FBI, but she had some health issues that prevented that from happening.
Okay.
And then she lives in Colorado Springs now. She's an investigator with her local sheriff's department. So she emails me and she says, hey, there's a couple of things the police are missing here. And we went right through the list. You know, there's this unusual weapon that somebody had to know about. There's the cleanup. There's the, all the connection to the house. So what we did is we created a profile of who we thought did it. And the boyfriend's name was Casey McCullough. And so what our profile told us was that whoever did this, it was a male member of the McCullough family. So we start with him. He has 2 brothers. He had another half brother that was verifiably out of the state. He was in the Air Force, I think. And then the father. So we're up to 4.
So we have him. We have 2 brothers.
Yes.
And we have the father.
And we have the father. Yes.
So there's 4 people.
4 people.
So the brother the boyfriend was gone. He was at a party.
He was at work.
He was at work, and then he stayed with a friend.
Yeah.
So it was possible for him to be there.
Well, not necessarily. We don't have any, and I'll just a spoiler alert on this. There is no proof that he was at work.
Oh.
He worked at a Sonic. Now people said he was there, but there's also no proof that she was alive Monday morning when he was dropped off.
Okay.
We don't have any proof of that. Now he says, that she wasn't. She dropped him off, but there's no proof of that.
Oh, okay.
So I guess just keep in your mind that we've got this profile, and it fits any male.
All right, so the only one that's actually not there was the stepbrother who was in the service.
Right, the half brother, yes.
The half brother,
yeah,
that was in the service,
yeah,
because he was off and doing his thing somewhere.
Well, and also and I will say this.
So there's 3 people.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's more, but those are the 3 main ones because it would kind of apply to any male member of the McCullough family. Like if he had a first cousin, that lived in the area, it would apply to them. And things like that. So we create this profile. Now, I will say this about the ex-boyfriend. He did a lot of things that made people think he was guilty. For instance, when he went out that night that she vanished with his 4 friends, they all 4, and I had all their sworn statements to police. They all 4 said it was really weird that he wanted to go out with us because he never wanted to ever go out with us. And then at some point that night, he gets on a phone, one of his friends' phone. He checks his own voicemail, and he gets off the phone and he says, Rebecca's missing. And all 4 said they were shocked that he wasn't running out the door to find her because he was obsessed with her. Like it's pretty clear she was above his pay grade, if you know what I mean. Like she was very pretty. She came from, her dad's a doctor and all this, and he's kind of a bum. So, so they were very shocked. And then he lied to me when I interviewed him right after the murder. I asked him, I said, so you were at your friend's house that morning, the next morning. And then you went to work, but you never went home because, I was thinking, well, if you went home and saw your bedroom destroyed and your mattress flipped and your bedding all gone, of course you would think something was up after telling your friends that she's missing. He told me he didn't go back. But guess what?
He did.
He did go back, and because he was forced to, because he was told by his manager that he had to wear the right uniform, so he had to go back home to get a shirt. He opened up the washer lid, and there's bloody sheets in there, his sheets. And he just grabbed a shirt, saw his whole room destroyed, saw her car there, her keys there, her phone there, her dog there, told all of his friends the night before that she was missing. And he just went back to work.
He knows who did it.
You know what? We're going to get to that.
Okay, well, we have to do a short radio identifier. You are listening to Author's Edge, and I am your host, Gael Freer. You're chatting with award-winning investigative journalist and true crime author George Jarrett, and we're coming to you every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 929 and KXOK FM 1029, or anytime online at KWRH929.com and KXOK102.com.
So Jennifer, when she contacted me immediately, she started dragging her poor husband from Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Arkansas to study this case. Like, she wanted to do geographic profiling. She wanted to meet all the characters in the case. She met with the lieutenant governor to try to put pressure on the state police to get a new detective on it. She filed a report with the FBI to try to get them to investigate him because she thought there might be some corruption going on.
Okay.
And so her and I
was there?
I don't know if it's corruption, but there was somebody who was definitely screwing the case up
On purpose? Or just incompetence?
Incompetence. And and the story gets wild from here. Just so you know.
My. Oh, my.
Yeah, it gets wild.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's wild from here.
Ooh.
So one thing that I noticed when the Helen Gone podcast came out was there were Facebook pages that formed, and literally thousands of people would join these pages, and they would be commenting and comments. There'd be hundreds and hundreds of comments and hundreds of likes and all this other stuff. Just the reaction was insane. We noticed that people in that family of the sort of ex-boyfriend, we noticed some of them were in there commenting a lot. And at the time, I didn't take note of it, like screenshotting, some of the comments, because we had a suspicion that there were other people in the family who knew what happened, because the ex-boyfriend still lived in the house where she was murdered, and literally he got married and had 2 kids. They were all living in that house. Her blood was literally found on the subflooring when they went to put new carpet in, and her blood was found on the subflooring, and they were staying in this house. So yeah, it was
yucky.
Yeah, it's awful. And so a bunch of those pages got deleted. Like, the people were getting so crazy on them that the administrators just said, forget this. We can't handle this anymore. I can't handle 800 comments when I wake up in the morning, like literally having to respond to all of them. So they deleted a bunch of pages, and so all that was lost. And we're like, oh man. Well, Jennifer and I decided, I told Jennifer, I said, hey, we need to start a Facebook page for Rebecca's case. And she said, okay. So we start a page, and early on we get a member named William Miller. Now, William, he was living in the Philippines. He's an American, but he married a Filipino woman, and he lived over there with her and a couple of kids. And he worked on oil rigs all over the world, so he traveled a lot. He made a lot of money. Well, he didn't know it, but we had a genealogist. We have a crowdsourcing team, and we have a genealogist on our crowdsourcing team. And as soon as he joined our page, our genealogist immediately popped up and said, oh, yeah, by the way, that is Casey, the ex-boyfriend. That's his first cousin.
Oh, dear.
And so he started talking to us on this Facebook page. He would give scenarios how she died. He would give theories as to who he thought did it and what happened. He started direct messaging Jennifer a lot. And so we didn't think anything of him at first because he's living in the Philippines. He's a first cousin. I mean, and we also, Jennifer's very good. Like, if you're trying to escape, like if she's after you, you may as well just give up because she will hunt you down. She's very.
I like this girl.
You'll love her. She is very, very tenacious. Her and I became fast friends. She's probably been to Arkansas 12 or 13 times since it started in 2019 with her. And I was a month ago. We were together in Denver. We study murder cases around the country now as a team. And so we go to Washington State, West
this
Virginia.
sounds so delightful.
Yeah, we go everywhere. We've been to Texas. That's Silent Silhouette. That's a case out of Texas that has a bunch of Arkansas ties that we didn't know about. So we know who this guy is. We know that he pretty interested in the case, but we also knew that he lived in Aransas Pass, Texas at the time of the murder. So that's 11 hours away. So we're just like, okay. Well, about 10 months into him being on the page, we found out something. We found out that he had actually been in Melbourne the weekend of the murder because his mother for a short time and his younger brother actually lived in Melbourne. They had moved from Texas up there, and he had come there, and we don't know if the story's true. This is what they say happened, is that he was going to help them move back to Texas, but we think he was just there visiting. So he's up here visiting his mom, who's very close to, and his brother who's very close to. And we find out that he's in town. Remember what I told you? We had that profile that we created.
Right.
Guess who fits the profile?
He does.
He does, because his name is William Miller, but because we're a patriarchal society, we name our kids most of the time after their father.
Right.
He's every bit as much a McCullough as the other ones, because that's his mom's maiden name, McCullough. So,
oh my goodness gracious.
When we found this out, we were like, okay, this is,
Yes. Yeah.
So about a week before he gets arrested, or no, the day before he got arrested, excuse me, I'm at the park talking to Jennifer, and Jennifer's like, he's the guy, isn't he? And I'm like, yeah.
Oh my
and
goodness.
little did we know. So they got so tired of my antics in the media, the state police did, like all the stuff I was doing. And I was told this by somebody inside. They got so tired of me that they assigned a new detective right before COVID hit to the case.
Uh-huh.
And this detective saw the case exactly like Jennifer and I did. He went right back to the family, and William Miller was number 6 on his list. He went through the first 5 first.
Uh-huh.
And then he went to number 6, which was him. And so William got stuck in the United States during COVID because he wasn't a national, so he couldn't go back to the Philippines. So he'd go work on an oil rig and then have to come home to a little town in Cottage Grove, Oregon. That's where his mother was living at the time, and he'd have to stay with her. So the detective flies out to Cottage Grove. And by the way, just so you guys know, I grew up an hour from Cottage Grove. So of all the states in all the world. And this happened on November 7th, 2020. November 7th is my birthday.
Oh my goodness.
The detective breaks him down. He fails a polygraph, but then the detective shows him a picture of a rag and he says, "We've got the killer's DNA on this rag." And then he shows him a picture of his truck, inside of his truck that he owned in 2004 when this murder took place.
Uh-huh.
He shows him a picture on the inside. He goes, "We found Rebecca's DNA next to the pedal in this truck." Here's the thing. And so this guy, he breaks down and starts confessing. Now his confession was terrible. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that can't plausibly be true. But guess what?
What?
They didn't have the killer's DNA, and they did not find Rebecca's DNA in that truck. The detective lied to him, and he fell for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so he confesses to that murder, but guess what else he does?
He confesses to other murders.
5. He gave specific graphic details how he would murder these women. So he's a serial killer. And he claims, now he lived overseas for years, he claims he didn't kill anybody overseas. Yeah. So, right.
Come on.
Yeah. And so
once a killer.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And so he mentioned me by name during his confession. He asked the detective, he goes, "Hey, do you know who George Jarrett is?" And then they started talking. And he goes, well, basically, he called me a scumbag and he hates my guts and all that stuff. Now, I will say this. I did go and interview him in prison, and Jennifer goes and visits him periodically, because one thing he did not do is he did not give us the names of the 5 girls. He gave the scenarios and some states where it could have happened. So what we're
trying to get the 5 names.
We're trying to get the names out of him. And we've also launched something called Project Rebecca to try to identify these other potential victims. And so we've got people all over the country who are going through like case files,
and
cold
he won't
cases.
Give them?
No, he's claiming now that he didn't kill anybody and that it was all a big lie and blah, blah, blah. But that's a lie, because he literally told the police one of the things that was missing was her big suitcase. He led the police to her suitcase. So how did he know, with her stuff in it? So how did he know where Rebecca's missing suitcase was? It was out in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And so he killed her, or he was involved in her killing. I will say this about the ex-boyfriend too, though, and this is just a weird detail. He's confessed to other people that he's actually the one that hit her in the head.
So maybe it was multiple killers. And
it's complicated.
They were just really, and they were very upset because she was above them.
Yes.
They couldn't have her.
Yes.
Nobody was going to have her.
Yes. And William was a sex predator too. Like we've gotten so many stories. He had child porn on his phone when he walked into the police station.
Oh my God.
And you know what he said he did to her is that he hit her in the head twice with the piano leg and it broke. And then he said he strangled her with a necktie from the closet. So 2 murder weapons. A lot of prosecutors would argue to you that if there's 2 murder weapons, that there's a potential that there's more than one person involved, because you're using different methods, and people aren't like that.
Right. Oh my God. All right. We are going to go to a break. This show is sponsored by Kanetta Taylor, author of Dead Fed Said, available in paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. Want to join Kanetta in supporting Author's Edge, become a show sponsor, and connect with passionate readers and industry insiders while helping us spotlight great stories and creators? Why sponsor Author's Edge? Reach thousands of book lovers, boost visibility and sales, target meaningful support, trusted all host endorsements. If you'd like to be a sponsor, call 573-714-1352 and let's chat about how we can feature you on Author's Edge, where authors and readers meet. And if you're in Missouri, consider joining the Missouri Writers Guild, founded in 1915 to support writers through workshops, conferences, contests, and local chapters. Visit MissouriWritersGuild.org to learn more and join today. And now we are going to go to a break.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchata and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open 7 days a week. El Potro, 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland.
Merton Services is a heating, air conditioning, and commercial refrigeration business that's been providing exceptional services in St. Louis for over 50 years, and they take pride in providing services and comfort to both residential and commercial customers. With the temperatures rising in the summer and dropping in the winter, your comfort and health can be put in jeopardy. With proper checks and maintenance, Mertens will keep your equipment in top shape. And when it's time to replace your furnace or your air conditioner, they've got you covered. With a wide range of options, Mertens has the perfect HVAC system to fit all of your needs. To find out how the good folks at Merton Services can help you with all of your HVAC needs, contact Merton Services at 314-845-1500. That's 314-845-1500. Merton Services, 314-845-1500.
Jewels on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. 314-752-5000. Jewels on Hampton.
Oh, you get good music.
I'm the old radio guy.
You're good. Oh, Mark, you're so good. Welcome back, and you're listening to Author's Edge. I'm your host, Gael Freer, chatting today with award-winning investigative journalist and true crime author George Jarrett. And we're coming to you every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 929 and KXOK FM 1029, or anytime online at KWRH929.com and KXOK102.com. Now, George, you also have done something with the West Memphis 3 case, right? So I'm just going to let you rock and roll and tell us about that.
Sure.
I mean, just go for it.
Sure. So I have written more news stories as a journalist about the West Memphis 3 case than anybody in the world.
Okay, start from the beginning with that, because
Okay.
I honestly, my husband said he knows a little something about it, but I don't know anything.
Okay, well, this is going to be one of the most astonishing crime cases you've ever heard about in your life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, they've made movies about this case, documentaries. Bated breath.
Oh.
And my first book, Witches in West Memphis, is about this case.
Now, I want you to know, I don't really watch any of these because I get nightmares.
Okay.
So listening to it, I know I'm going to be like, ah.
Okay. So how this story starts is there's three little boys, Christopher Byers, Stevie Branch, and and Michael Moore. They're 8-year-old boys. They're living in West Memphis, Arkansas.
Oh, no.
It's May 5th, 1993. The three boys are out riding their bikes. You know, Stevie's in his Cub Scout uniform, and they're just riding around. Well, late in the afternoon, early evening, they vanish. The neighborhood it abuts where 40 and 55 meet in West Memphis for a little stretch, and then they split where they go to the two bridges across into Memphis. They live right there, and there's like a little wooded area called Robin Hood Hills, and there's a drainage ditch that flows through there. The next afternoon, the three little boys' bodies are found inside the drainage ditch.
Oh
they are nude. They are bound ankle to wrist with their own shoelaces. They were hogtied.
Oh.
So immediately the police start an investigation, obviously. Within a month, they had come up with a theory that this was a satanic or an occult killing. And they pretty early on, they focused in on a really troubled teen in West Memphis named Damien Eccles. And so they were focused on him the whole time. And they were also focused on his best friend, a guy named Jason Baldwin. Okay, so at the time, Damien's 18, Jason is 16. And then they were bringing all these teenagers in to do interviews continuously because they just thought one of these teens knows what happened to these three kids. So they brought in a kid named Jesse Miss Kelly Jr. He was 17. He had an IQ of 72. So they bring him in and he confesses. He says that the three of them, the boys came into the woods and they savagely attacked them, that they raped two of them. And then, and people had focused in on Christopher Byers, one of the boys. They focused in on his injuries more because he had been, for lack of a better term, he'd been emasculated. And I hate to be graphic, but like his penis and scrotum, the skin had been removed from them.
Oh my gosh.
And so everybody focused in on that. So they finally, with this confession, they arrest the three guys. 9 months later, they have a trial. They're convicted. Damien Eccles is sentenced to death. The other two are given life in prison. There was only one little problem.
They didn't do it.
So they spent nearly 20 years in prison for a crime they didn't commit. And what happened
was the young man, the other young man, was he executed?
No, he was on death row, but he was never executed.
Oh, thank God.
Because what happened is HBO did a documentary called Paradise Lost during that time. And they got freewheeling access to everything, like behind the scenes. They were in the judges' chambers. And this documentary got nominated for an Academy Award. And Joe Berlinger, who does all the Netflix, Ted Bundy tapes, all that stuff, he was one of the directors. And then the other director was a guy named Bruce Sinofsky. And I got to know both of them very well through the years. Actually, Bruce passed away several years ago. But so they did this documentary and it started an international furor. Like, people from around the world were like, are you kidding me? You convicted these guys based on nothing. There was absolutely nothing. And so what happened?
Actually, I do remember this now.
Yeah.
Now I do remember.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it until now that you've described.
Yeah.
Yes. Now I do remember this case.
And so what happened is a bunch of celebrities started donating money to get them out of prison. Celebrities like Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, Natalie Maines from the Chicks.
I remember this.
Yeah. It was
because it was so wrong, so heinous, and so wrong.
Yeah. And so what happened through the years is, technology got better. And I interviewed Damien Eccles when he was still on death row. We exchanged some letters and I interviewed him and I told him, I said, there's two things that saved you. And have saved you to this point, because he was still in prison at this time. I said, the internet had just come around like the next year, like 94 when he got convicted was the first year that.
Yeah, I remember the internet coming around because that's when I bought my first computer.
Right. I remember it because I was like a senior. I think I was a junior in high school, and it was like you could go to the library, and it was like the internet. What's this?
No, I bought my first computer at I was a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. And I bought my first computer with some things that I had sold, and I bought my first computer at home. And it was like so cool because I was showing my husband, oh, look at this, look at how cool this is. And I was pumped, and then I had a computer in my classroom that was for the whole hallway. The whole hallway in the English department had one computer that everybody could share. I was the only one that thought this was so cool. So it stayed in my room, and I was the one that used it all the time. And everybody else was saying, oh, this thing's never going to last.
Right.
But I was like, pumped. But keep going.
So,
I digress.
No, that's fine. So all this money's being raised. The other thing that saved them was the documentary Paradise Lost, and then they went on to do two other Paradise Lost, and I actually consulted on the third one, and it was nominated for an Academy Award too. So science got a whole lot better, like that was the other thing that happened is DNA, yeah, because DNA testing back then was blood type. You could tell the blood type, and that was it. Well, they collected a bunch of hairs at the crime scene that they kept in evidence. Well, in 2007, all those hairs were tested, and
they didn't match any of the kids.
Some of the hairs they couldn't determine who they belonged to, but they could determine who they didn't belong to. And it's those three guys. So these three long-haired guys who lived in a trailer park right there on the side of the road, right there in Lakeshore Trailer Park, didn't have a 10th grade education between the three of them. Now, Jason, it was a good student. He was in the 10th grade at the time. One of his teachers got on the stand during the Rule 37 hearings, and that's how I got involved. I didn't cover the original trials. I was obviously too young. Right. But the Rule 37, which is where you're asking for a new trial. Right. And usually the Rule 37 hearings will last 10 times longer than the regular trials. So I covered it for the Associated Press and the Jonesboro Sun, and I was there for weeks on end just covering everything. And they brought in all these high-powered experts. Dr. Michael Bodden, who was the city medical examiner for the city of New York for 11 years. He's on TV all the time. He's considered the best forensic pathologist in the world. Right. He told me to move out of Arkansas because he doesn't know what people, he says, George, I don't know what they're doing to people down here. Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Richard Suverin, who is the bite mark guy who ID'd Ted Bundy. He was the key witness against him when he got convicted of killing those girls in Florida. And that's what led to him. He came to Jonesboro and testified. Gael, he told me, he said, this is a quote from him. He goes, I said, what do you think about this case? He goes, this is the damn stupidest case I've ever seen in my life. Now, going back to the hairs, inside the ligature that bound Michael Moore, they pulled a hair out. They DNA tested it. It is a 98.5% match for one of the other boys' stepdad, a guy named Terry Hobbs. Yes. And there's another hair that was found on a tree stump next to where the bodies were dumped. And that hair is an almost certain match for his alibi witness when the boys disappeared. Because when the boys disappeared, Terry was the custodial parent over his stepson because his wife was at work. He had taken her to work, dropped her off while Stevie was out in the neighborhood playing with his friends. And so as soon as this stuff came out, immediately the focus started turning to him. And it was weird because his timeline for that night is it doesn't make any sense. And I'll give you an example. So he wrote a book with a cousin of his that's a writer called Box Full of Nightmares. In the book, he says that so this is how the parents reported the kids missing. Around 7:30, Christopher Byers' father, John Mark Byers, is concerned enough that he contacts the police. He's like, hey, my son should be home by now, and he's not. And the police advised him, wait another half hour. He'll come home. That's how this works. He said, well, at 8 o'clock, I'm calling back and you're sending an officer over here. So at 8 o'clock, he calls back and says, hey,
my son's not home.
My son's not home. So then an officer named Regina Meek comes into the neighborhood. She pulls in the driveway. Well, Michael Moore's mother, Dana Moore, they live across the street. Well, as soon as Dana sees the police car over there, she comes over and she's like, my son's missing too. Now, Terry claims in his book that when these two people, when these two sets of parents were saying their kids are gone, he claims he went over and reported Stevie missing too. But that's not true. And I'll tell you why. Number one, I asked John Mark Byers. He died in a car wreck a few years ago. I asked him, I said, was Terry there when this happened? And he said, no. He says he can't tell the same lie twice. He's a liar. He was not there. So then the officer is asked under oath, was he there? And she said no. Okay, so now you've got two witnesses. Dana Moore, one of Michael Moore's mother, she testified at both murder trials. She vividly described the scene at the patrol car when this whole thing went down. She never said Terry was there. So now we're
it's 3 people.
3. Now we've got more. Melissa Byers, John Mark Byers' wife, she testified at both murder trials. So you can go read the trial transcripts. You don't have to take my word for it. She doesn't mention him being there. But now we've got a 5th piece of evidence. The officer didn't generate a report. She has 2 other boys reported missing, but she doesn't have him reported missing. And Gail, let me ask you this: do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay. If let me ask you.
My son missing for 5 seconds, I would be screaming.
Right. Now let me ask you this: are they grown now?
Yes.
Okay. If one of your children, as 8 years old, was missing.
I have a locator on my phone for my son, and he's 35.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. I know where, and honestly, he has locator on his phone for me.
Right.
And I'm 70.
Right.
Okay. So we know where each other are all the time. I mean, not that we check.
Right.
Okay. We don't. But if I needed to, I know I could.
Right. No, and it you know what? That's good. I mean, that really is honestly good.
Okay. So yes, it 5 seconds, and I would be calling. I would be saying, "So where are you?" So when there was flood, okay, when there was first time my son was in New York, there was a hurricane that gone through, Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
Okay, I was on, and he lived in an area that was prone to flooding and whatnot, and it was going to get hit.
Yeah.
Okay. I was on the phone every 10 minutes to the point where my son said to me, "Mom, I'm fine. Stop it."
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, "You're my son. I don't care."
Yeah. I will never stop.
I will never stop. That's just the way it is.
Right.
All right. So your point.
So So Terry was never originally interviewed by the police, unbelievably. All the other parents were interviewed, but he wasn't, and we don't know why. There's no explanation why, but he wasn't. But he made a mistake. He decided, Natalie Maines started running around telling people, in public, she would say at public events, she would say Terry Hobbs is the real killer in the West Memphis 3 case. And he decided to sue her in federal court for defamation. Well, he lost the lawsuit. And here's what's crazy. He lost that lawsuit when at the time, the 3 guys were still in prison. He could not prove in federal court that he didn't do it when there was already 3 other guys convicted for it. Okay.
Oh my good Lord.
Yeah. So, and here's the key though. When he sued her, it opened him up to discovery. And so her attorneys were able to say, okay, well, where were you at that afternoon and that evening? What were you doing and who were you with? Because no one had ever asked him that question before. Well, the interview went, and of course it got on YouTube and everybody, saw it. It was so bad that it forced the police to have to bring him in for an interview. During that interview, he says he never saw the boys that day, not once. Now, let's jump back in time. Remember when he said he reported Stevie missing with the other parents? How can you report somebody missing
if you've never seen?
What are they wearing?
Wow.
Who are they with? You can't. So that's impossible. So that's a lie. Oh, and there's the other part. And Gail, this is probably the most poignant point I'll make about it.
Oh my gosh.
Your husband was just in here.
Uh-huh.
You have a son.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's say you in your mind believe your son's missing. Like, well, he's supposed to be here, but he's not. If he was missing, who's the first person you're calling?
My husband and my son and the police.
You're calling your husband. That's the first one, because you're going to believe in your mind, wait a minute, did I miss something? Were they supposed to go somewhere? And also, Pam worked just a couple of miles down the road at a restaurant. She didn't work that far away. So here's the thing. He says that he reported Stevie missing at 8:00. He didn't bother to call his wife. He didn't tell his wife. No, he goes to pick her up from work at 9:24. I've got the timestamp. He walks right past.
He didn't tell his wife?
No, He walked right past her.
I would be saying, sweetie, where's Alexander?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you called? Has he spoken to you? I'd be calling him. I'd be calling his sister. I mean,
you would go to the restaurant because you would think that the boys just rode their bikes over to the restaurant. It's just down the road. So he walks right past her, and she told me the story. Walks right past her, goes to a payphone,
oh my gosh,
calls the police and says he's missing. Now, here's another point. If you've already reported him missing once, why are you reporting him missing again? And she said he walked right past her, and then she walked to the car with 2 pieces of candy in her hands, one for her little daughter Amanda, who was 4 at the time, and one for Stevie. Now listen, and I've said this to him. I've interviewed him many times. I've told him, I said, I'm not saying that you had anything to do with these murders, but I will say this: what you say, you're lying about a bunch of stuff. Number one, you're the custodial
Absolutely.
parent. Number two. The story you're telling is implausible. Number 3,
absolutely.
statistically speaking, when a child is murdered, it's either a parent or a step parent. Okay. I'm not saying you did it, but you've lied a whole lot. And
you know more than you're telling.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. And so the reason I bring him up is that the police could have figured all of what I just said out
and come to a better conclusion than putting these 3 young men
Yes.
in prison for 20 years.
Yes.
When they didn't belong there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what they're doing now. This is how crazy it is. So there's this thing called MVAC DNA testing now. It's touch DNA testing. Like the sweater you're wearing there is a little coarse.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to touch your sweater, let's say, there might be enough skin cells pulled off of my fingers to leave skin cells on your shirt. They can take what they call, it's like a microbiological vacuum.
Uh-huh.
They can vacuum your shirt and they might find my skin cells on there. Okay.
Wow.
Now I'm friends with the CEO of MVAC DNA testing. His Jared Bradley, great guy. The FBI uses MVAC. His dad invented it. Okay. His dad was a food scientist, and they actually didn't have to modify. They created this machine to detect pathogens in food. And it was so good at detecting pathogens that food companies were like, wait a minute, we can't use this thing because it's just too much. Like nothing would pass the test. So they started using it to test for DNA, and it worked.
Wow.
So Damian Eccles, who is the, he in 2020, he asked the state of Arkansas to do touch DNA testing. Remember those ligatures that bound the boys? Shoelaces are coarse. They pull a lot of skin cells. So when you're tying your shoes are full of skin cells. So whoever tied those knots, Gael, their DNA could still very well be on those shoelaces. Guess what Terry told me about testing those shoelaces? He says, I hope a judge does the right thing and orders all the evidence in the case destroyed. You heard me right. So you've got these 3 guys who are still technically convicted of the crime. They were released under an Alford plea, which is like a no contest plea. They are still technically convicted of it. So you've got those 3 guys suing the state to make them do their own testing on this stuff. The state doesn't want to test them. They fought it all the way. This was in 2020 when this process started. Those shoestrings still haven't been tested. But the prosecutor has finally said about a month ago that the Arkansas Supreme Court ruled that they had to do the testing. And so the prosecutor finally, a couple of months ago, said, okay, we're going to send it off. And we're going to do the testing. The stepdad, the one we've been talking about, he wants all the evidence destroyed.
Because he's guilty. The only reason why you would want evidence destroyed is if you were guilty of it. I mean, common sense. I mean, you have to be an idiot not to know that.
One would think.
Oh my.
I told you this was a wild one.
Oh my God. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. You are listening to Author's Edge, and I am your host, Gael Freer, chatting today with the award-winning investigative journalist. And obviously there's reasons why he's award-winning. And true crime writer, author George Jarrett, We're coming to you every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 929 and KXOK FM 1029, or anytime online on KWRH929.com and KXOK102.com. Now, why do you write so many anthology style books?
I have a theory that people have short attention spans. So
True.
I could write a 1,200 page book, no problem, about all this stuff. But I have a sneaking suspicion most people, if they bought the book, wouldn't finish it. So I developed a theory several years ago, about a decade ago, that people want short, quick, move on to the next thing. So
especially with this true crime stuff.
Yes.
They want to know the facts.
Yeah, they just want to get to it.
They want to know who did it.
Yeah, that's it. They just
want to know who did it, how they did it, why they did it, and what was the punishment.
Yeah, and they want to be able to do it.
They got caught.
And they want to do it in one sitting. Like they want to sit down. A consistent comment that I've gotten online from people is they really enjoyed it because it was a quick read. And also I write in AP style. I think we talked about that, you being a former English teacher, and AP style meaning Associated Press style. And the reason that I write in that style is that AP created that style to make it easy to consume.
Right.
Like you'll just go right through it.
Who, what, where, when, and how.
Yeah, it's easy. The words are easy to consume. You don't like they have, they'll like the word Arkansas will be, instead of Arkansas, it'd be ARK dot, comma. Right. That just stuff like that to speed you through. And so people have short attention spans and they want to be able to say, when they're asked, have you read a book lately? I read a book, and it's George's book is very short and it's very easy to read, almost like a kindergartner, would read. But
how do you decide what stories or cases to write about?
Well, as a journalist, I don't cover true crime anymore, so I kind of do pick and choose if I write about something now. Before, those things picked me. West Memphis 3, I was working for a company and they asked me to cover that. Same with Rebecca Gould. Here's the thing. I always tell young journalists and other writers, if you're going to do this stuff, always remember one thing. It doesn't matter if you're a city council meeting or if you're sitting in a jail cell with a serial killer or if you're talking to a U.S. president. You're going to do an interview. You're going to cover a meeting. In every one of those things, the most interesting detail boils to the surface. And it might not be a great one for that day, but that's the most important. Tell a good story. Anybody, if you start off telling a good story, tell it. If you start off good, they will come to the end.
Yes.
But if you start off, without a good start, you're going to lose them.
Yep. That first sentence, got to start it. What is your favorite book you've written?
Well, writing books are like your kids. You got favorite. you love them all.
But you do have favorites.
If I was going to pick one, I really like Silent Silhouette, the book that I co-wrote with Jen, because I think it's the best written book out of my books because she's a part of it. She's a
phenomenal writer.
She is a fantastic writer. You can tell she's a college professor too. So I guess I really love that book. Plus we have a chapter in there about William Miller, the serial killer or potential serial killer that we lured on that Facebook page. So I always push people to that. My second book, The Creekside Bones, I really wanted to write that book because it was about some obscure murder cases. And I am telling you right now, Gael, the first chapter of that book is the most heinous murder case you have ever heard of in your entire life. It starts off with a knock at the door. This family of four is going to bed. It's a rainy July night.
Is it like the Truman Capote book?
Very similar. Yeah. In Cold Blood. Yeah. So there's a knock at the door. A friend needs help with his car out by the river. The 11 Point River flows not far from where these people, about a mile from where they live.
See, this is why I don't read this stuff, because it gives me the willies.
Oh, this story, the one I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
I have spoken at private events, colleges, universities, high schools. I've spoken at many, many things. When I tell this story, I always say it's the worst, most heinous crime you've ever heard of. And I have never had one person ever come back at me after they've read it and say, no, it wasn't. Because within 1 hour of this friend asking for help, mom, dad, and little boy are slaughtered like animals. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean that literally. And the little 8-year-old girl was taken.
Did they ever find the girl?
The reason I titled that book The Creekside Bones is because 2 years later they found her bones in a creek.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I covered the murder trials for the 2 guys who were convicted of it, and it is a wild, heinous case. And here's the thing. There's one other small detail I'll give you.
How do you sleep at night?
Apparently, when I was covering the murder trials for these 2 guys in this case, I was screaming in my sleep a lot. I didn't know it at the time, but I was. I write a lot about business and politics and economics and all that other stuff that you said. So my mind goes other places. But there comes a point in your life when you've covered this stuff enough and you've dealt with it enough. You get desensitized to it, the first time I saw a murdered dead body was Rebecca Gould. And, I was in shock probably for a good 6 months after that. I couldn't get it out of my head. But then it got to the point where I was out there when they were, fishing bodies out of the Black River and, other places. And, you just get, when my kids were in school, a student got murdered, a girl named a chapter about her is also in the Creekside Bones. She was murdered by her stepfather, and my wife was actually her teacher.
Oh my gosh.
And so we knew her.
My gosh.
And and her stepdad, he killed himself before they could catch him and all sorts of stuff. So that's a pretty heinous chapter. And also I knew there was a state senator in Pocahontas, Linda Collins Smith, she got murdered. And I knew her. I mean, I knew her for 15 years. I covered her when she was in the legislature. I covered her did business stories with her because she was a businesswoman, owned businesses. Her husband was a judge, and I'd covered his court before. And then she got murdered by her business partner and someone who helped her with her elections over money. She got stabbed to death in her house. So it's interesting having connections to people in these cases. And after a while, you just get to the point where you're just like you want to advocate for them.
Yes, I would guess. Actually, I think you and I are probably going to have another chat. I think we are going to have to do this again because you have so much. And I mean, I don't think we've covered even a kernel of what we could talk about.
Hey, I did a story. You remember To Kill a Mockingbird?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the girl that played Scout?
Mm-hmm.
I did a story with her a couple of months ago.
Well, we're going to definitely have to chat again. There's no question about it. What is the one thing that you want aspiring writers to know? Because we got 3 minutes.
One thing that I will tell an aspiring writer is write what you know.
Okay. Because
you can't it's hard to fool other people if you're trying to write about, and you make it too hard on yourself. So write what you know.
Okay. True crime podcast, genius or just nosy people with microphones?
Mix of both. And I know I do a podcast. I host a podcast and I co-host another podcast with Jen. And so I like the podcast where they're actually doing work in the field, not just regurgitating things I write about, which has happened to me many, many, many times on podcasts across the country. They just read some stuff that I wrote. And
oh no, I like to make it interesting. I like to just play it up, I don't know. I think just doing things differently, Yeah. If your career was a crime scene, what's the one piece of evidence that proves that you did it your way?
There would be no evidence.
I love it. Okay, George, thank you so much for joining us today on Author's Edge. What an incredible journey through writing, truth, and storytelling. We are going to do this again.
Yes.
Okay. Tune in again next week for more tips, resources, and conversations that celebrate the creative spirit. Our next guest will be Nikki Jacobsmeyer, author of Kentucky's Pack Horse Librarians and The Ghostly Tales of St. Charles. I can't wait to explore the fascinating history and inspirations behind her books. Till then, see you around the inkwell.